So we're supposed to be writing equations for a situation here. So we got Gia and Brewsty. And the key information is going to be what's the change and what's the start for each of them. So let's read through about Gia. Gia has $130 and is saving $15 every week. So which of those numbers would be the change, the 130 or the 15? What do you guys think? The 15 is the change. That's how much she's changing because every week they're adding another $15, right? So every week they're going to change by $15. So the change is 15. And then the start value, which she has right now, is 130. Did you guys write that down on in your packets? Change and start, 15 and 130. If you didn't, pick up your pencil and get it down. Let's write ourselves an equation. If we know our change and our start, just as a quick reminder, we've got a little cheat code right over here. Remember that it's y equals, and then the change goes in front of the x, and then the start gets tacked on at the end. So y equals 15. 15. Plus 130. That would be our graph to graph. So we're going to talk about some other ways that we can deal with problems other than graphing today. And some of you are going to ask the question, well, why don't we just graph it? Well, this is the answer. Sometimes we end up with equations that we just don't want to graph because the numbers are too big. All right, let's talk about Brewsty. Brewsty's got $820 right now and is spending $25 a week. So what's Brewsty's change? Negative 25 because she's going down $25 every month. Are we okay with why that's a negative 25? Because she's spending. And Brewsty's starting off with how much money? 820. All right, so then Brewsty's equation would be y equals negative 25x plus 820. Once again, I am super grateful I don't have to graph that. All right, next up, they say use your equation to find how much Gia will have in 10 weeks. So Gia's equation is y equals 15x plus 130. What are we going to do with this equation to figure out how much money she has in 10 weeks? How can we use this equation to figure out how much money she has in 10 weeks? Any ideas? Well, yeah, we're gonna put 10 in for x here. We're going to put 10 in for x, and that'll tell us how much money she's got. This equation is going to allow us to predict how much money Gia's got at any point in time. If you wanted to know how much money she'd have in 15 weeks, we put a 15 in here for x. If you want to know how much money she had in 1 year, that's 52 weeks, we put a 52 in for x. So it's asking us to do 10 weeks. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation. Folks, if you didn't do this, could you please write this down right now? Y equals 15x plus 130. But I left my x out because I know an x value. X value is going to be 10. Y equals 15 times 10 plus 130. And then we could grab a calculator and type that in. Or some of us might be able to do that in our head. You know what 15 times 10 is? 150. And then can you add 150 and 130 in your head? 280. Nice. Nice. So Gia is going to have $280 in 10 weeks, which is still going to be less than Brewsty, right? Yeah, but Brewsty started off with 820 and Brewsty's spending 25 bucks a week. So Brewsty's going to have less as well. All right. Next it says use your equation to predict how long it will take Gia to save up $385. All right, so what we need to do here, and I'm going to kind of backstep. Yeah, I don't have a pass, so just go ahead and go. Thank you. Let's take a step back and let's label what x and y are in our equation. Y is the dependent variable, and it's what this problem is about. This problem is about money. So y is going to be money. And X is going to be the independent variable. It's the thing that controls the money, and the thing that controls how much money they have is how many weeks in we are. So X is going to be time in weeks. All right, that's why we put this 10 in here for X, because that 10 was weeks. We're going to do something very similar in part C here. They're giving us 385. Are we going to put that in for X, or are we going to put it in for Y? $385. Is that going for X or for Y? Y is the one that's in money. Is this money? Yeah, we're going to put it in for Y. And this is for Gia again. So let's write down Gia's equation, but this time leave the Y out. And what are we going to put in place of that Y? 385. And then we can solve that equation. It's got some bigger numbers, but we can handle it. We're just trying to get this X by itself. What would you do first to get that X by itself? We got to get rid of the 15 and the 130. Which one would you get rid of first, the 15 or the 130? We usually do addition and subtraction first, right? Let's get rid of this 130. That's a plus 130. What's the opposite of plus 130? Minus 130. Okay, minus 130 on both sides. I see a few people with calculators out. Can you give me an assist here? What's 385 minus 130? I want to say 255. Is that correct? Yeah. All right, so we got a 15x left. One more step gets rid of that 15. What am I going to do to get rid of that 15? Divide on both sides by 15. And if I could get another calculator assist, that'd be awesome. What's 255 divided by 15? 17. Thank you so much. 17. 17 what? $17? 17 weeks. We said that X was going to represent weeks. All right, so it's going to take 17 weeks for Gia to get up to 385 bucks. There's a second part of this question. It asked, how much is Brewsty going to have at that time? Well, now we know what that time is, which is 17 weeks. So how are we going to figure out how much Brewsty has at 17 weeks? Well, let's go back to Brewsty's equation. Brewsty's equation was y equals negative 25x plus 820. What are we going to put 17 in for in this equation? The y or the x? And the x, right? This is an x value. So let's rewrite Brewsty's equation. Y equals negative 25x plus 820. Except we don't know what x is, or we do know what x is. So I left the x out. I'm going to replace it with 17. And then we can use our calculator and figure out how much Brewsty is going to have. How much is Brewsty going to have? What's negative 25 times 17 plus 820? 395? So who's going to have more money in 17 weeks, Gia or Brewsty? How much money does Gia have after 17 weeks? 385. That's what we worked to figure out the 17 from. So Gia has 385 and Brewsty has 395. Brewsty's got 10 more dollars than Gia. Who's going to have more money the next week, though? Gia, because why? Because Gia is the one that's adding money to her account. Brewsty is spending her money, so she's subtracting from her. So this will be the last week. Would you say this would be the last week that Brewsty has more money than Gia? All right, you guys did great with that. Thank you so much. If you could look on the front page of your packets.